Hello friends, I hope everyone is healthy. Friends, if you fall into the trap of the US strategy or secretly cooperate with the US, the ultimate damage to that country is historically proven, which Russian President Mr. Putin may have ignored and refused to accept. But finally, he is gradually feeling his punishment. Look, it was not very long ago. Just a few days ago, at the request of Donald Trump, Mr. Putin agreed not to attack Ukraine for a week. The anti-war reason was that he would do this to save people from suffering due to the severe winter. However, as it was known at that time, this agreement was made because of Iran. Anyway, Russia did not attack for a week. However, Russia is now gradually feeling the counterattack that Ukraine took this opportunity. Look, I do not need any explanation. There is no need to give the international media a chance. Surely you can see the live footage of the attack on the screen. Everything that happened was recorded and you can see it. The Ukrainian military has attacked the Russian air base with its long-range FPV drones and one after another hit important Russian fighter jets, bombers, and other aircraft for strategic support. Russia could not do anything, because Russia assumed that since we stopped the attack for a week, there is currently a one-week ceasefire. The United States has guaranteed that there will be no counterattack, for which they have been largely inactive, and on this occasion, Ukraine has achieved this major success. According to their information, the security service of Ukraine has carried out this attack inside at least 5 Russian air bases, and in this attack, they have been able to destroy 15 fighter jets and the helicopters that are there. They have also published a list of what they have destroyed. 11 fixed-wing fighter jets, including Su-31 and MiG-31. 3 helicopters have been destroyed, M8, M26, and M8I helicopters. A transport aircraft known as N-26I was destroyed. In addition, munitions and fuel depots at the air bases were also destroyed. International reports say that the total damage caused to Russia by this attack is more than $1 billion, and there is doubt whether Russia will be able to produce the type of weapons that were destroyed in the next year. Now the question is, what kind of force hit Russia? What kind of damage can be caused if the United States is believed? Russia has gradually realized it, for which Iran is now leaning towards providing full energy cooperation. Look, this morning, when Iran suddenly announced that they would hold a huge military exercise in the Arabian Sea near their Gulf, where Chinese warships will participate and Russia will also participate, at that time, it was a big shock that Russia would participate in this military exercise. Suddenly, there was a great doubt about the large warships, but later on, it became clear that the US had cheated, and because of the US's deception, it had attacked Ukraine and caused so much damage to the Russian base. Now Russia wants to take revenge, or now they have learned their lesson, for which they, centered on Iran, want to join again in a strong way. But how long will this last? Or will the historical character of Russia change its color again? But they will fall into the trap of the US. So even though there is no significant trust in Russia, there is a big change in power in the Mediterranean. And the US is expanding a large NATO base centered on Greece on a large scale to attack Iran. Attacking Iran from within any of the NATO member states to attack Iran is a safe policy and a very important strategy for the US, because those bases and various US equipment will be safe as a counterattack. Attacking any NATO country means the risk of activating the 5th article of NATO, which Iran may not want to take. Because why would Iran take a big risk to fight the whole world, especially half the power? And for this, initially it was thought that there is still a possibility of using Turkish bases. However, in this case, they are also expanding the Greek bases as an alternative, because it is doubtful whether Turkey will ultimately give their base to be used in an attack against Iran. However, Greece has full consent in this case. The locations of Greece and Turkey are not very far apart, where it will be very easy for the United States to attack using the bases. The United States is assembling a large amount of power in the Mediterranean Sea. One of their aircraft carriers is already stationed in the Mediterranean Sea, and the NATO base on the coast of Greece is very close to Cyprus. The United States is strongly expanding the base from where it is easy to attack directly from Syria. The United States has officially acknowledged the expansion of this base, focusing on this very important issue. They are preparing it to protect Israel strongly in case of an emergency and to attack against any enemy. This is not good for Turkey's sovereignty and Turkey at all. The United States will build a base right next to its coast, and a country like Greece will receive major assistance from this base, which is also a big risk for Turkey's sovereignty and long-term military security. Iran must be weakened above all. Iran cannot be given concessions in any way. Iran's military power, missile power, and nuclear power must be dismantled. This is the ultimate goal of the United States, for which it is never possible for Iran to accept the conditions they have given through the letter. Still, Iran is trying very sincerely to resolve the issue diplomatically. Ali Razani, who is the head of Iran's defense, confirmed that Iran has also responded to the United States letter, and that Iran has made it clear in some cases that Iran can make concessions. Iran is ready to guarantee that Iran will not develop nuclear weapons. Iran is ready to hold all kinds of talks on this issue. However, Iran is not interested in any kind of talks on these issues, such as not having a nuclear program or reducing the range of its missiles. Iran considers it logical to continue the progress of its nuclear program and increase the range of its missiles to protect its sovereignty. However, it must produce nuclear weapons or give a befitting reply to the enemy through nuclear weapons. Iran does not believe this. They have expressed this in their statements. Therefore, Iran is willing to negotiate with the United States. However, the negotiations will be entirely based on the guarantee that Iran will not produce nuclear weapons. Another important condition has been given by Iran. That is, there must be a guarantor for the negotiations. As soon as the United States enters the negotiations, it attacks unexpectedly. In this case, a powerful country like China must be included as a guarantor. China will ensure that there will be no attack during the negotiations. Only then will Iran go to negotiations, where the United States is expected to have strong objections. The United States says, "We do not want war. If the solution is resolved through negotiations, we want good negotiations." Iran says, "We do not want war. We want a solution through negotiations." However, the important thing is that there is no mentality of making concessions between the two countries. Even a year ago, the two countries are still giving the same conditions that were discussed, which is not possible for anyone to accept. So the conflict is inevitable if there are two in this strong position, but military experts think so. It remains to be seen what happens in the end. So friends, goodbye like today. See you again with a new video. Until then, everyone stay well, stay healthy. Thank you.